Welcome to episode 189 of the Left Behind Game Club. This week, we played Telling Lies. Let's get right into it.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Katie Lesperance, and today I have one single friend here with me, and that friend is Travis Colnut.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Good.
Today, so we're going to be playing Telling Lies. We're going to dive into that, but first, I want you to do us 3 favors. If you like this podcast, if you've been listening for a while and you are a fan, please give us a review on your podcasting platform of choice. It helps us out a great deal. 5 stars, please.
No 4s.
No 4s. God, why would somebody give a 4?
Why bother?
Monster.
Yeah.
Secondly, send this podcast to a friend, because that's how most people hear about new podcasts that they like. And if you could follow us on Twitter.
X.
Oh, God, yes. Travis is already throwing me off left and right.
Trying.
This is fine. It's take 3. It's okay. Follow us on Twitter Twitter at Left Behind Club. And we're going to dive into Telling Lies.
Mm-hmm.
So Telling Lies is a game by Sam Barlow, who is a member who leads the Half Mermaid developer.
Mm-hmm. Which, it wasn't Half Mermaid that did this, though.
So it was at the time called Drowning Mermaid, because yes,
Okay.
the opening credits, it's like a Drowning Mermaid
Right.
game across the front. I looked into it a little bit. They just changed the name.
Okay.
We thought we're like, maybe they split.
Yeah,
Maybe it was
it's
like
like
a 2-person and
right.
now it's 1 person. Now it's half the mermaid, and it used to be a full Drowning Mermaid. But no, they just changed the name.
Gotcha.
It was published by Annapurna Interactive, one of their early, I don't know if I'll call it a banger, but you know, they published some bangers. Originally released on iOS, on Mac, on Windows, and then within the year they ported it to Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. So pretty much everything. Originally released August 23rd, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go to the fast pitch.
Yes.
So this is a 1-sentence description of the game that we are about to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Travis, what is your fast pitch for Telling Lies?
Okay. My fast pitch is how quickly Zoom calls got tedious at the start of COVID, the game.
Very nice.
Is it? Yeah. I think it's about right.
It's true. Yeah, this was put out before Zoom.
Like-
Everyone Zoom called.
Yeah.
Everyone video called.
And it was tedious then, too.
It was.
Yeah.
It's honestly, I thought about that at the start. I was like, did people only video call then?
I don't think I ever video called before COVID.
I might have once. Like a handful of times tops, but it was not my main method of communication
Me
at all.
neither.
Text.
Yes.
Phone call if it's dire.
Yeah, someone better be in emergency state.
It's life or limb.
Yeah. Just do not call me.
Oh God, my fast pitch. I'm terrible at this. My fast pitch is like, you know, NSA, the video game. Basically.
Yeah.
Watching intrusive things
Yes.
and personal details of other people.
Karen.
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 We'll get to Karen. So first I want to dive into just our history with Sam Barlow games, Half Mermaid games.
Yes.
Because they're kind of, they're pretty unique,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
So what's kind of your main things that you consider a Sam Barlow game?
I mean, I think a lot of it is that like the live video-esque thing where you're going back and forth in different scenes and using clues from one live action recorded real person on a screen thing and jumping between different stuff to try to piece together a story, right? Like there's 3 of these ones that come to mind. It's Her Story, Telling Lies, then Immortality.
The 3 Sam Barlow
The
games,
3
yes.
major ones. Like those are it, right? And so it's, for me, I played Immortality first because, I mean, I had heard that it was good. I was very interested in the premise of it. Immortality is probably one of my favorite games of all time. It's like maybe a top 5 game, maybe a top 3 game. Like it's up there. I love Immortality so much. And so then I was like Katie, we need to play Her Story because neither of us have ever played Her Story.
Mhm.
So we ended up playing Her Story
Mhm.
in your living room and just like played it together,
Yep.
watched that stuff. And then we're like, well, we have to play Telling Lies. Like if we've
Well,
played like, but I feel like we kind of went like in reverse order of like best to worst. Not in that like,
You're not calling this bad.
I'm not saying this is
it's a bad game, but
I think we went best to worst in terms of, but you also couldn't play Immortality. So
Immortality.
yeah.
Obviously Immortality, fantastic game that released, I believe, 2 years ago,
something like that,
2022 or somewhere around there. Crazy game that the story is all over the place. I just could not get over. It has this surreal, creepy factor that the other two games do not have. They're more set in reality.
Yes.
Whereas
there's a creepiness to Her Story.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not to the level in which Immortality
goes out. I'm not going to spoil Immortality. No. If you are intrigued at all about just playing a unique experience, highly recommend.
Yes.
I could not get over, there is the basic mechanic, the core mechanic of the game.
Yeah.
Every single time it happened, it's put me, like the sound of it, put me into a full fight or flight, like cold sweat.
Yeah.
Like it was bad. So I played a few hours of it until my husband literally was like, "Why are you playing this? Stop playing this." Because he was just watching me just agonize. But yes, great game. I would say the most successful
100%.
of the three. Her Story was more you could tell it's the first one.
Yes.
Right? Like the core concept of, like you said, FMV. Where you are kind of scanning through files or videos or whatever and piecing together a story in a not chronological order.
Right.
Typically.
And that's the thing. You can see the building blocks of what Her Story and Telling Lies kind of start building upon to create what is Immortality, like which is like an amazing game. You can see how they kind of piece those things together. Like the stuff is there, especially in Her Story. You can see it a lot more clearly. I think Telling Lies is a little bit more. I would compare, like I'd say Immortality and Her Story feel more similar, and Telling Lies feels a little bit more different.
Yes.
In comparison,
I think it's the size of the game and I don't know, just the way the actors are presented.
Right.
Before we go on, I will say Her Story. If you are curious about Her Story, there is a Left Behind episode for this. Episode 36, Jacob, Mike, and Mo, the OGs, the founders, played Her Story. Because,
before I was a regular on this podcast, I would listen pretty regularly to every episode, and Her Story was one of the ones that I actively skipped because I knew I wanted to eventually play it. So when we finally played it, I finally went back and listened to that episode, and I was just like, oh, if I had listened to this, I would have no clue as to what they were talking about.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't have mattered if I listened to it at all anyways.
So they are FMV games. They have sometimes actors that we know from television or movies, specifically Telling Lies. A lot of actors that we know. We'll get into that. So Her Story is more, it centers on one character.
Yes.
Well, one character. I'll leave it at that.
Yep.
Whereas this one, so Telling Lies, you have 4 main characters
that center around one.
Yes.
But their stories all kind of intertwine, more or less. But it is, generally speaking, it's like one guy and his conversations with everyone else for the most part, right? Like it's a bunch of women centered around him and how he interacts with them in different ways.
Yes, the man is the center of the story.
Yet all the women are way better.
They are.
They're so good in this. I cared so much more. But that's just me.
So before we dive into the story and everything, so we said mechanically, specifically for this one, you are using search terms. So it is like an NSA database, basically, that let's say an FBI agent would be looking through, scouring for clues and stuff.
Right.
So this is a database of, like we said, video calls that people are making between each other. So you have multiple characters, multiple storylines that kind of all interconnect.
Yep.
Playing on PlayStation.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the most ideal place to be playing it. So we played it on the PS4 version on my PS5.
Yeah, we played it together. Yeah, on the couch next to each other, which was fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I highly recommend.
That's the thing. I think piecing it together with someone, like, I think I enjoyed my time with Immortality as a separate solo experience, but playing Her Story and Telling Lies with someone else, like trying to understand what the heck is going on, was, I think, just upped the fun factor a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I don't, like, not to get into, like, how I feel about the game, but I don't know if I would, like, I think having someone to play it with made the experience much better. Because I wonder how this would have hit for me if it was just me playing it by myself.
I think those two games were like a high 7.
Yeah.
Maybe an 8,
right.
Low 8, because I played it with somebody.
Yes.
I think if I played it alone, I don't know that I don't know that they would have kept my attention as much as they did. And also just like when you have those revelations, those like big moments where you go, oh my God, who's that? What's happening there? And then we would turn each other and be like, oh my God.
Yeah. What to search for next.
Yeah. And then we're like, we're going, oh my God. What do we...
Type in the word bomb. We need to type in the word bomb. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Or Karen! We just screamed Karen at each other.
Yeah.
I like it. I think they'd still be good games. I think I still would have enjoyed them, but I think it was a lot more fun playing it with somebody. Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But playing on PlayStation, again, I don't know that is the ideal way to play just mechanically.
It's just like typing words into the keyboard.
Yeah.
It sucks generally with a controller. It's one of my least favorite things to do.
Oh God, absolutely.
Is typing in words on a thing. So, but there's a mechanic where you can actually like just kind of click through the subtitles.
Yeah. That
we discovered very late. We didn't really use it at all until the very end. We're like, oh, we should actually try using this. You could just kind of like, you know, when it's a little dot that kind of moves around, like along the words, like if you're at a musical and you're singing along, right? And you could just select that word and then select that word to search for other videos that someone says that word, right? So someone has to actually say the word, and then you'll get 5 videos, 5 or 6?
5.
Yeah, 5 videos that load that have that word. Someone speaks that word. But then there could be other videos that also have that word, but you don't have access to them. So you only get 5 at a time. So the game does limit what you can see. It's not like, oh, I could see every single video with the word bomb in it. It's no, I get 5, and then I kind of have to keep piecing the story together by like maybe inferring what someone might have said, or maybe taking what's going on in the conversation, or someone says a key word that you're like, oh, that sounds interesting. Use that word, search for a new term. Try to go down each rabbit hole until you kind of piece together the entire story. Is kind of how this game works. Also kind of how, like, very much how Her Story works in the same way. It's word search.
Yeah, and there are things about this one that I think work better because there are multiple sides of the conversation, and then there are other things that work worse than Her Story.
Yes.
So, like, better, I would think we see one side of a conversation, and then we're like, oh, but, like, we kind of know what the other side is like, but we don't know exactly what the other side is like.
Yeah.
And you want to find, we're like, oh, that's the other side of that video of like that person's reaction to that thing the other person said.
Right.
And then you're finding the other side of the video is a cool little thing to try and track down. But then you have the flip side of that where you have, because it's a conversation, sometimes you just have one person listening for like a minute and a half. Yeah. And you're just kind of like scrubbing forward with the right stick.
Until someone speaks again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially the story time ones.
Oh my goodness, the story time.
There's like 10-minute long scenes where you're just kind of sitting in silence. And I could see why this could take a long time. The fast forward isn't fast enough, I find.
You need that. Needs to have like a progressive speed. You know, the longer you hold it, the faster it goes. Basic thing, but it was just kind of like the same speed. So sometimes you're waiting, like it's like I'm scrubbing forward through 3 minutes, but it still takes like a good 30 seconds at least to scrub that far. Something else was not great about it.
Well, I think because, like you said, it's similar in that like it works worse than Her Story because I find Her Story is they're like 1 minute long.
It's concise.
Videos. They're concise. They're video interviews with a police officer asking an interrogation essentially. So like they ask the question, she gives an answer. That's it. It's like 30 seconds to a minute. It's like 2 minutes is maybe the most you'd get out of a video.
And even then, she's talking the whole time.
Yes. These are, because she's just answering the question.
Yeah.
With these, you have a lot of dead air for a while, which then can kind of feel like it's dragging a little bit. Like it's padding out the time, which, I mean, but logically it has to happen that way because there is a flip side video that you can then watch that has that conversation, right? So
yeah, I don't have a better way to do that.
There isn't a better way to do that. It just is a matter. It just is.
Yes,
right?
and like I said, I think it's made worse by the port to console. I think on laptop maybe you'd be able to navigate it a little bit quicker. So I don't know. Maybe that's the challenge there.
Yeah.
But no, I like this flip on the same premise, and all three games are very unique in that way.
Yes.
Like the first one, like you said, is interrogation videos. It is one person talking pretty much the whole time. This one has multiple characters, different settings, like different storylines. Like we're like, oh, what about this person? This whole other storyline that we haven't looked into a lot. We can look down there. And then Immortality is just a whole other bag.
It's a whole other thing because that's like videos, and you're clicking through videos to like similar items that you see in a on screen. Like you're not looking for words, you're looking for like, oh, there's a snake in this clip, I'm gonna click on the snake and find another clip with a snake in it. Like it's like the evolution of this taken like to such a huge leap forward for so, like it's not really comparable in terms of like gameplay wise to like it's the same premise, but like it's so different, I find, from Telling Lies to Immortality, where like there's easier comparisons made between her. You can see the small step between her story and Telling Lies and the giant leap to the next game, right?
Yes.
Long story short, I did enjoy my time with this game, even though there is like we said, those little kind of weird, tedious-y parts about it, right? But regardless.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. It's not the least successful. I think it's very successful.
Yes.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
A lot. But yeah, of the three, I'd probably rank it the lowest.
I think so.
I think I would rank it a 7, whereas her story is closer to an 8, and then Immortality is like a 9.
0.5.
Okay. 0.89999. Like, how high can I rank this game? So yeah, so that's Telling Lies in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I think we're going to dive into... So we'll do a light story.
Yes.
To start, and then later we'll get into, like, deep spoilers.
Yes.
We're just talking about exactly what happens.
Yeah.
We'll just kind of open with characters.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 main characters.
Yes.
We've got David Smith, who is a family man, but also an FBI agent who does undercover stints.
Yes.
Where he is investigating things for lengths of time under, a different name, pretending to be a different person. The whole thing. David Smith is portrayed by Logan Marshall Green, who has a healthy IMDb.
Yeah.
Working actor.
Yeah.
Consistent. The thing I know him from is, of course, the OC.
Yeah, it's Trey from the OC. That was like, I'm like, it's Trey. Like, I feel like I actually called every single character in this show by their character name from whatever show I know them the most by. Like, this is Trey. Like, what is Trey doing? He's undercover? Didn't he go to jail? Like, no.
Maybe he was undercover.
Maybe the
he
whole
wasn't
time.
Ryan's brother ever. It was all nonsense.
What you say?
So he is undercover. His wife, Emma, played by Carrie Bichet.
Yeah.
Who I was not that familiar with.
Oh my
you
God.
are extremely familiar with.
I love her. She's in *Halt and Catch Fire*. My favorite character in that show. I love that show. She's amazing. That was the big draw here too for me. Was I had recently finished watching *Halt and Catch Fire*, and I'm like, I need more of her.
Yeah, I think that was another push for you. You were like, well, we should play Telling Lies because you've played the other two, but also Carrie Bichet is in it.
So I'm like, can we play this? Like, yeah. But on top of it, like, I mean, okay, so then Ava is Alexandra Shipp, who, I mean, for X-Men Apocalypse, she was Storm. I'm not going to get down the rabbit hole of casting in the Fox X-Men movies, but she was Storm in X-Men Apocalypse. That's factual. And then the last one, I'm not even sure how to say her last name. Angela Serafian?
I don't actually know.
I'm not sure.
Serafian.
Yeah.
I would say Serafian.
She's Clementine from Westworld.
Yes!
Yeah, which was nuts.
Yeah, no, you look at the box art and you're like, I know that person, and that person, and that person, and that person.
Yeah.
Which, not to say that that's better or worse than video game actors.
No, but it's just kind of cool.
It is. And then I'm like, oh, look at you, Sam Barlow. It's like your second big game.
Yeah.
And you're booking stars.
Yeah.
Like, people like working actors
Yes.
who do this all the time. Like,
Yeah.
this is their thing.
Yeah.
Which, if you're doing FMV, then, like, yeah, you want people who are used to being in front of a camera.
And that's the thing. Like, and they're all actually really good.
Yes.
They all do really good. Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
We both have a least interesting character.
I think so.
Which is 1, 2, 3,
Ava? Yeah.
It's Ava.
Which is unfortunate.
Okay, so I think Alexandra Shipp does a fantastic
Yes.
job. I think she portrays that character wonderfully. I think the character is interesting enough. I think what I don't like, or I think what I find less interesting about her, is that she's just kind of young and naive.
Yes.
And I think everyone else has a little bit of jadedness to them.
And there's layers.
Yeah.
There's
I don't
layers.
think Ava has that many layers.
That's the thing. Emma and Max have layers.
Mm-hmm.
Ava feels very surface level.
I feel like I didn't learn that much more about Ava the entire game, aside from like what I first got to know her.
That's the
about.
thing. I think if I had one major criticism of the story, I would say it feels like things just happen around Ava.
Yes.
And she's not really as key of a player as like where I feel like
she is kind of there as a foil to David.
Yes.
As opposed to being kind of her own character.
Yes,
Yeah.
a little bit. And like a healthy portion of the majority of the plot revolves around what David is doing with Ava and that group. And like the key driver of that plot, moving the story forward, involves Ava, but like it kind of feels like
she's just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah, a little bit, which is unfortunate.
I wanted her to be more. So Ava is kind of a young woman. She's, I don't know, early to mid 20s.
Yeah.
And she is kind of at that like crossroads in her life. Like, I don't know, she works at a record store.
Yes.
She kind of wants to be a singer. Doesn't really have it all together. But she's involved with this environmentalist group.
Right.
And who are like, they're activists. They're like protesting. They are figuring out things to do. They're like, we can try and divert this and stop them from putting in a pipeline or whatever. Like they are activist, environmentalist, and she is in with them, but she doesn't seem like that involved.
Yeah,
I guess
it's like she's friends with the like, and she's
kind of
involved.
along for the ride.
Yeah, again, she is just kind of along. She doesn't feel like an active participant in that plot a lot. I feel like a lot of the times David's just kind of doing things and she is just reacting.
Yes.
We're like. So Emma, David's wife, has plots going on of her own, and like, but I think the interesting aspects of her and David's relationship,
there's history there.
There's history there, and you're uncovering it a little bit, and there's layers to how Emma reacts to things and what she's doing, and
yeah.
And then Max is a cam girl that David watches from time to time, and kind of gets a bit of an attachment to, and she's just all sorts of interesting.
Oh my goodness. So at first I was like I was unsure about Ava also, but so Max is there and I'm like, okay, we're doing, which one of the logical things, like what kind of video calls are there? A large number of video calls are like cam girls and like sex worker type stuff. And at first I was like, how interesting is this gonna get with the cam girl? And then it just gets better and better and better the more it goes.
Yes.
I really, really liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, and I still, like, you're left with a lot of questions.
I still have questions about Max. I want more Maxines.
Is it Michelle? Like, what was her real name? I actually don't know.
It's Maxine.
Is it Maxine or is it Michelle?
No, it's Max. It was Michelle.
Michelle. Oh, right.
French. Because at first she was a French girl who used to be a ballet dancer.
Yeah.
And then her ballet career went to the crap.
Yeah.
And now she makes ends meet by being a cam girl.
Yeah.
And the men, they give her tips.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I was that French accent.
The French accent at first. And then when you finally get a scene where she's not in a French accent and you're like, what is happening?
That was one of our early,
that
like,
was our early,
whoa!
yes.
Because I had commented on the accent at first where I was like, I don't know.
Right, are we
if
supposed
I'm
to
gonna
believe
listen...
this is like actually a French woman? Like,
not that she's doing a bad French accent. But it was just something about the French accent made the like coy, sensual cam girl, like over the top, ridiculous.
But that was the point.
It was the point. It absolutely was.
And it worked on us. Like, that's the thing.
Yes.
It was effective in that way, which
yes.
I liked.
Everything that she does, I'm like, oh, you are very good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, she's very effective. It's having an effect. But then when that drops,
yes.
that was our first big, like, oh, there's more to Max than
yes.
French cam girl.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the same way that, like, the first time Emma starts, like, either having she's a little drunk, she makes a few side comments about something,
mm-hmm.
then you're like, what is she infer? What's she talking about? Why?
Mm-hmm.
What is this? So there's stuff with Emma and Max where, like, Ava just felt very, like, upfront.
Like I said, I don't think I learned that much more about it.
No.
There was like one little thing about their past, but even that doesn't really change anything.
No, but that's because she's young too, so there isn't much of a past.
There's no
right?
like history there.
No.
I don't know.
So that's the thing. All these things are happening to her.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't feel like an active participant sometimes in the story, which is, I think, the thing that makes her maybe the least strong character out of all of them, right? But also, unfortunately, like, she's the one involved in most of the main driving force of, like, David's plot.
Yes.
Right? Like, and he's the core of the story, where we're really seeing his conversations with Ava, his conversations with Emma, his conversations with Max.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes you're getting an oddball conversation. Maybe you're getting a conversation with David with maybe his daughter, with Emma, Alba, or you're getting a conversation, his handler, Mike. And then sometimes even later on into the story, you're getting, like, recorded, like, cameras that David set up to try to trap some of these organizers, because he is essentially there to, as an FBI undercover agent, to try to infiltrate this group that leads them to a greater terrorist organization that they're trying to take down. And so he's setting up cameras, and you're seeing some of that footage. And that's the thing, Ava's not even in some of that stuff.
No.
Like, so it does, like, those are very David centric, but because that, it feels like she kind of drops off the face of the earth a little bit. She kind of gets relegated to,
like, the girlfriend.
There is a lot of, like, building of their relationship, but then once their relationship is established, then it kind of just the drama kind of dissipates a little bit, and now she's just present for all of his shenanigans
and reacting to what's going on.
Exactly. Right.
I want to go back
just
a little bit to the game mechanics, because as we're talking about how you learn more about characters as you go, and you, like, find nuggets here and there. I think that's another thing that this Sam Barlow games do really, really well, that it's very unpredictable of what you get and when.
Right.
And all of a sudden you could get something that is, because the story takes place over like 2 years.
Right.
All of a sudden you could get something that's like, near the end of the story, and you have no context for it. And that makes it fun, because then you're like, oh, it's this bigger mystery.
Trying to piece it together.
Yeah, because then you're like, wait, how did we get from where we are now to there?
Right.
Because that is radically different from where we are.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's really cool that the game, because you can play it different ways. Like, you can search whatever terms you want. So you will get videos in different orders. But because the way it's paced, somehow they still manage.
That's the thing. There must be some sort of, like, something happening beneath the scenes where, like, you're just they'll give you, like, maybe one scene from, like, really far off, and then that just lets you fall down a different rabbit hole of, like, we had a whole list of notes of words that we were keeping track of, and then we would find a scene and we'd be like, oh, but now we need to search that. I guess we're forgetting the 5 words that we just wrote down.
And we had a whole sheet.
Yeah, and then we had to go back and, like, go through all the words that we were missing to try to fill up the gaps. But it's interesting. I don't know how the game does it, because it doesn't give away like, huge things right off the hop either. Like,
but then it could. But what are the odds you're going to search the terms that bring about those crazy late stage things if you don't know? Like, early in the game, we're not searching boat.
Right.
Or I was trying to be non-specific still.
Yes.
Or I don't know, gun. A shocker. There's a gun.
Right.
But
we searched gun, like, very late in the game, and I don't know why we didn't think to search gun.
Yeah. Well, because I don't know. When the videos that we're watching, nobody has a gun. Or or just Yeah, just different things. Just the way that it peels back the layers and it being not chronological and not preset the order that you're watching the videos in.
Yeah.
And yet it still feeds them to you in a way that's super interesting.
Yeah.
And intriguing.
You'll get like a person's name and then you're like, who's that? And so you type in that person's name and you'll start getting some scenes with that person. And you're kind of like, okay, I'm starting to piece together this, but I have no context for what is happening and like why this person is suddenly important, right? Like, so yeah, I don't know how that works. I don't know how they do it that you don't accidentally get spoiled so easily, because I feel like you could search any word and just find the ending like right off the hop.
But even then, you wouldn't understand the ending.
Or even know that is the ending.
Yeah.
You maybe think. It's very interesting.
They're set up in just like this ingenious way that's really unique. And I really, really like it. Okay, back to characters. We've got a daughter. David and Emma have a daughter, Alba, that we mentioned already. There's Mama.
Mama.
Oh, Mama.
I love Mama. She's always taking a nap.
Oh, Mama taking a nap.
She's always taking a nap.
Who's Emma's mother? Alba's grandmother. She's around. She's a hoot, and then later less of a hoot.
Yeah,
then,
unfortunately,
that's another thing. It's like, oh, that's darker than we thought it was. At first, we just thought it was like funny, haha. And then like,
someone drank a little too much at Thanksgiving. She's taking a nap.
That's all. No big deal. And then I don't know. You've got different people from within the like activist group. We mentioned like the handler. That's pretty much most of it.
Yeah. I had a hard time keeping track of the activist group character names. They were all very generic.
Peter,
Simon.
There's probably a Matt. I don't know. Greg. It's all just like guy
Paul,
names.
Matthew. God, I don't even know.
Are you just naming apostles now?
I think I might be. Judas? Was he there?
I feel like Judas would be a giveaway.
I don't think yeah.
Can you name your child Judas?
I don't think so.
Probably not. So I think that's pretty much covers what we can.
Yes, without fully spoiling everything.
From here on out, like, if you are intrigued about this, if you want to know the story, if you want to play the game, maybe play the game first before you listen to the rest of this episode, because we're just going to, like, dive right into the plot.
Yes.
And talk about all the pieces, what we find interesting, all that.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, come on back after you've played it.
Yeah.
David. Undercover. David starts out as like, oh, he's a dad, he's a husband, he seems to love Emma so much, he is an FBI agent and he's doing good work.
Yeah.
And that's a good man. And guess what? He's a crapbag. Shocker.
Like, also very interesting.
But it's done in
That's the thing.
Because a good villain doesn't think that he's the villain. And he's not necessarily like the villain. No. He's not a bad person. But he is. He has very bad flaws.
Yes, he's got very big flaws.
Big flaws.
That
he needs therapy. He needs really bad therapy.
And that's the thing. I think, but that's the interesting part of him is I find that the complexes that he has are just interesting. And that like when you figure out what his deal is.
So he wants to be the hero.
He wants to be the hero. Essentially, you do figure that out eventually through, like, once you kind of get that point where you understand that he wants to be the hero, you kind of see everything in his actions.
Yes, it clarifies.
So many things. So many out of context scenes that you might have seen are kind of like, oh, he did this because he wants to be the hero. He wants to be the one to save the day. And there's this hero complex that he has so far that he like negatively affects the people around him. And like that's the thing, the David and Emma thing is like kind of the major thing where
I thought it was the most interesting relationship. Well, him and Maxine is also interesting, more from Maxine's perspective than David's perspective. But just like this marital, it seems to be like a solid marriage,
right?
Which would be stressed by someone going undercover for years at a time, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then you realize, like, no, there's other stuff
underlying things here.
And I think the first big hint was just the first time that we saw him get really, really angry.
Right.
Because he gets really, really agitated, angry.
Yes.
Like, can't control his rage angry. And the first time you just see a little bit of it near the end of a video, he's listening to something and you don't even know what's being said to him.
And that's what's good about this game.
So cool.
Is that you're like, what was being said that triggered him?
Because was it really bad or was it just like a weird thing that hit him in a certain way? Like, we don't know. Like, is something serious happening or is it just like an argument?
Right.
And he's just stressed, or is it like something bad happened? We don't know.
Right.
But he still has this like visceral, angry, like physical reaction. And you're like, oh, he can get really, really mad. Mm-hmm. And that's your first little nugget that he's maybe not, a gem.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. And even with David, like his relationship with Ava, you feel like, okay, you see the conversations he has with his handler about, like, okay, I'm doing this. She's interested in this, blah, blah, blah. You see them like flirting and having video calls and they're talking, and you can kind of see the starting of a relationship there because he's obviously trying to get close to her. And then but then you really don't know where the act ends and the actual relationship maybe begins. And I don't know if I still know. And I don't know if I even know, like, he obviously cared about her.
Yes. Very much by the end.
But also...
Yeah, I don't know where the turning point was.
Right. And I'm also, I don't know, just because he wants to be the hero so badly,
that it's someone younger that he can kind of protect.
Like there's a level of like how much of this is for him and not necessarily about Ava, right? Like how much of this is him projecting all of his like.
He kind of does that with all three women.
He does,
right? He's trying to get like he needs like love and affection, and also to be in control of the relationship in a way.
Yes,
that's a very I wouldn't say abusive, but it is. But it's an unhealthy, just way of approaching relationships.
And just the starting with Ava right off the hop is in like
a power imbalance. Yeah,
because he's undercover infiltrating this thing and getting close to her on purpose to do that.
Yeah.
Do feelings develop? Probably, but also like you could make the argument that like maybe it was just all an act. I don't know. Like I think he did care for her. Mm-hmm. But it's still just weird. Like, you don't know. Does he care about her? Or does he care about the idea of her? Yeah. Right? Like, there's a lot of.
I think he cares about the idea of most. I think Emma, there's more there.
For sure.
Obviously, it's his wife. They've been together a long time. There's history there. But also, it's the same thing with Maxine, where he's kind of projecting what he wants out of this relationship.
It's all projection. Yes. Right? There is no, like, reciprocating from Max's end.
If it is, he is. Allowing himself to be convinced that there is a connection.
Like it's deep denial that like she is clearly telling him the truth, that she is like building a relationship with him in some way.
And he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Like he does this. That's what he does, right? Thing. Is he like gets up close to people.
Yeah.
And then he at some point, like you said, I don't know if it's like willfully, if he's kind of aware or not, or if he's just in denial, but at some point he just lets himself buy into this relationship.
Exactly.
Even though he should know.
Right.
Because I feel like that's like the sex worker thing, is like make the person feel like they're special.
Yes.
And like you should know that that's what she does with probably all of them, right? Is like, no, you make them feel special. That's part of the job.
It's like you just kind of ignore that part.
He's like, no, like I'm different.
Which is exactly.
Like, come on.
Yes. He's the hero of his own story almost a little bit, right?
All the time.
So there's three different levels there, right? Mm-hmm. And Max, it's like, obviously him and Emma have a relationship that starts with Ava is just starting out, but it's so one-sided with Max that you see there's different thematic layers there that are just super interesting with how his relationships are played out between all three of them.
I also think it's interesting that he's like the one male character, really.
Yeah.
There is a male character in Immortality, but it's still very, very female focused.
Yeah.
And same with her story.
Yeah.
Even the themes are like very woman focused.
Yes.
And then this one is like it's centered on David, but it's focused on his relationship with these three different women. And
how terrible he is to all of them. Yeah.
But in different ways. And they're all very different relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like I think it's well written.
Yes.
I really
think so
do.
Too. I would say it is very well. Yeah. I think that's the thing. I think the story is very well written. Mm-hmm. I think it's just
the dialogue.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like the acting is great. I think that's the thing. It's just like, I think because of the way that it is video calls and you kind of have this weird slogginess of like having to wade through silent one half of a conversation, it can feel like it drags a little bit, which is weird because like if I were to just be watching these conversations happen,
both sides at the same time,
I think I'd be like super interested. But then you don't really have much of a game here. You're just watching clips.
Yeah. I also kind of like, although it does drag sometimes, I like seeing the conversation on only one side because then you really focus in on that actor.
Yeah.
And it's like a stage play. Like they are just on the whole time.
Yeah.
And there's no leaving.
The slight facial motions and the little bit like, oh, there's a slight, he's a little irritated.
Yeah.
Oh, what was being said there? Like you can kind of see it in their faces. Like it is really impressive work by the actors to be able to like buy into these conversations. The whole time.
Mm-hmm. Without really having someone to play off of, really. I'm assuming that they're looking at something or someone is saying, someone else is portraying the other half of that conversation to them.
Yeah.
But like how, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, speaking of David, I thought it was really Logan Marshall Green.
Yeah.
I think he is so well cast for that role.
Yeah.
Because he's really, he's very expressive.
Yep.
In his face. But there's something like a little performative about him but in a good way, not in a way that I think he's poorly acting. I think that he's acting very well, but that he performs differently for the three different women.
Because that was what he does. Yeah. Like, as a person, David is that,
By
right?
like halfway through the game, as soon as his call started, we'd be like, he's talking to so-and-so.
Yes.
Like, from his body language, from his tone of voice.
Exactly.
You can tell.
Yeah, which was nuts. Like, by the end of the game, we knew he was having a conversation with Emma.
Yeah.
We knew even before he said anything or we got any kind of clues.
Yeah, just body language.
Just body language alone. You knew who he was talking to.
Yeah.
Which is just really impressive. When you consider, we mostly knew who each of the women, generally speaking, we knew Emma was probably talking to David. We knew Max was probably talking to David because generally speaking, they're talking to him. But when the way he acts with each of them separately he had different body language. Like you said, it's really good.
Even just pacing to how he spoke.
Yeah.
Like he spoke to Maxine slowly. Like I think he thought he was like a sexy voice. I don't know. It was slow and thoughtful.
Yes.
And weird.
And
kind
Ava,
of possessive. In a weird way.
And with Ava, it was very hi and energetic and young and everything like that, right?
Charming boyfriend.
Yes. Yeah, there was a flirty charminess to how he spoke to Ava. And then with Emma, there was a familiarity. There was but then when their when the relationship was on the rocks, it was just very monotone. It was very there was
he's not giving much.
He's not not at all.
Yeah, he seems detached from the relationship.
Very detached. Almost because he's in a relationship with Ava at the time, right? How he's detached from his wife who he has barely seen for 2 years, right? Yeah.
And then Emma, who is I have to just a little bit. So she's a nurse. If you're new here, I've mentioned a couple times in this podcast. My day job, I am a nurse. Whenever people say things in games or media that I'm like, that's ridiculous. I can kind of let a lot of it go because it's always a little off because it's hard. I get it.
Yeah.
But when he said, "Hey, honey, how was your day?" And she said, she say we brought someone back from the brink and I gave a subcutaneous insulin injection and the patient didn't even feel it. And I was like, one, how else would you give an insulin injection other than subcutaneously? That's the only way you're giving it. So there's no chance she would ever say that. That's absurd. And it's an insulin shot. It's the tiniest needles possible. Whoop-de-freaking do. They didn't feel it. It was silly. And I paused the video and I was like, okay. A subcutaneous insulin injection.
It was
you sounded like a second-year nursing student.
Yeah,
that's all.
It felt very Grey's Anatomy. They're speaking, they're doing the whole big
say the words.
big
that makes
word,
it more
doctory,
nursey.
doctor speak. You know what I mean? Yeah.
If I say big words, then it's really a nurse. No, actually. But anyway.
I don't think anyone has actually in the history of the world ever actually said we brought someone back from the brink. Other than in a TV show.
Yeah.
I don't think people say that in real life.
Not really, no.
No.
Other than that, Emma's great.
Yes.
We loved her trying to seduce David.
Oh my God.
With video phone call sex.
Yeah.
It was extremely uncomfortable.
But really funny.
But funny.
Yeah.
Because it's bad, it's funny.
Yeah.
Because she's drunk when she's doing it.
And then like immediately go to like a Max scene
Yes.
where like Max is very effective at doing the sexy
It's like
stuff.
the most sexual, I don't know what the words are, but
Yeah.
whereas Emma's like, I'm going to try and be sexy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cute.
What was her name? Was it
Oh.
Giselle? I don't even know what it was, but it was really funny.
It might have been Giselle.
Isabella?
It was Isabel.
Oh, yeah.
They're like role playing, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, Isabel's here."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh God,
Jesus.
it's really funny."
It was really good.
Emma just gets, so as far as like the back history, there's really one major thing.
Yes.
But Emma kind of develops as you see her deal with things, like
Right.
mostly with David being gone, her getting more and more irritated with him being kind of distant about
Right.
it, and like not the effort not seeming to be there,
Right.
and the relationship falling apart, and then the stuff with Mama.
Right.
Because we find out Mama is not just the drunken grandmother.
Yeah.
She is seemingly starting to have like early onset dementia,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like going downhill.
So that's the thing. So she's juggling her mother who is not well, her daughter who is young and she's a nurse. She works crazy hours. There's like definitely a situation where Mama accidentally like forgets Alba in the bath for like a couple hours because she just forgot that she was in there, and she went to go watch TV and just left her in there. And then Emma didn't find her until like she got home, and like she's struggling.
Yeah.
It's hard, right? And then she starts to kind of date, and
Well, she finds David, and she's kind of suspects like, oh, you're dating? Like, oh, what are you doing? Or you're off having fun while you're undercover? Like, she's kind of imagining that that it's not hard work every day, right? That he's kind of, a part of him is enjoying this other life.
And there's conversations where she asks him, like, how do you do it? How do you turn it on? How do you just like lie? Like she asks him those questions, and
which then makes you suspect your own relationship, right? When you see that they can lie and like
that
make up a
easily.
fake relationship with somebody else so easily.
Exactly.
You start to question everything.
Right. And that's the thing, and that, like we said, like a lot of David is a performance, right? Like, so yeah, the big thing with their relationship is
this fantastic monologue.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's so good. And like, I don't even know, did we find that scene first, or did we find David reacting to it?
No, we found that scene first.
Yeah, because then when we finally found,
I think we searched wine.
Yeah. Yes,
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
And then it brought us to her, and she's drinking wine, and then she is she's inebriated.
Yes.
And she's telling the story about this thing that happened with David.
Where essentially she had a boyfriend who was maybe borderline a little abusive, and
it sounds like he was pretty abusive.
But like it just kept getting worse and worse. But then but David was in the picture somehow.
Well, she had broken up with it. It was an ex-boyfriend.
Right. It was an ex-boyfriend. And she had gone to see him, and David he was about to attack her or hurt her in some way, the ex-boyfriend. And David came in and saved the day and murdered the ex-boyfriend.
He shot him.
Yeah. And they covered up the murder together. Like,
so he bled out on the floor, and basically they're like, we could have done something, but we didn't.
Right.
So he died.
Yes. But then we come to find out that David actually was watching.
He didn't go in right away.
He didn't go in right away.
She was like, hey, he's here, like, can you come to for safety reasons? Can you just like come? Because I don't feel super comfortable.
Yeah.
He got there, waited a bit in his car until it got dire enough
so that he could come in
save the day.
And that's where we got the reveal of like he wants to be the hero.
Yes.
And we find out that she knew
that he'd wait in the car.
That she saw him outside and she knew he was waiting, and she held on to that.
Yeah.
Like that was a reveal to him at that moment in time. He had never known that she knew. This whole time he thought he was just the hero that saved her.
Yeah.
But she knew, and she held on to that. And there's obviously, then they obviously got married and had a child and built a life together. But there was always
just in the back of her mind this thing,
that aspect that he waited until it was the opportune time for him to be the hero.
Yeah.
Which is dark.
It's so dark. And up till
but
then,
also crazy interesting.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And just the way, and her delivery of that whole monologue,
Yes.
and she's sitting by like a dollhouse with her wine,
Yep.
and she has like the figures,
Yes.
and she's like, and then David does this, and then this and that, and she does such a good job. We were fixated the entire time. That's like one of the longer videos.
Yeah, it's really because she's telling this entire story, and she's a little drunk, so she's a little slow.
Yeah,
but like it's just a little, but it's so good.
Yeah,
it is one of the like big monologues of the.
Yeah,
I don't feel like there's a lot of big moments. In the game, there's a lot of like small
little
build up things, little moments, but this is like one of the big ones. And yeah, so that's kind of like that really puts like the nail in the coffin in terms of their relationship a little bit, and then anything after that is just them either Emma being like, you can't call here, or them dealing with like, it's almost like once he is no longer undercover, spoilers, but like she is very much like, you like, he will try to call Alba and she'll be like, you can't call here. Yeah. And you just know that like, oh, their relationship is
they're essentially separated, co-parenting.
Yeah.
At this point. Well,
like
she's parenting, he appears sometimes.
And even like, I don't know exactly when that conversation happens in relation to her dating the anesthesiologist. Oh, because
she mentions him earlier.
And also like he's in a video at one point in time, and
that's late. Yeah,
yeah, but they're okay with David having like being there talking to Alba at the time. But like David is pretty well aware that she is dating someone, and just kind of has to accept it because he's also kind of dating someone too. Like, so it's just this weird like, we're married, but like, are we married kind of thing? Like, if you haven't been together for like 2 years, what is it that you are?
Yeah, the like slow destruction of the marriage.
Yes, exactly.
Is not fun to watch, but it's
interesting.
It's just interesting. It's layered and it's complicated and it's not easy, and like none of it is portrayed as like easy.
No, exactly. That's the thing. That's why Emma's like very. I was very drawn to like, what is the story here, right? And then, where then in contrast, you seeing him build a relationship with Ava.
It's just like a new relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're dating and like, I don't know, we're gonna read books to each other and like fun. Watch movies and this and that, and like it's very, like surface level.
Yes.
Early 20, like beginning a relationship.
Yeah, and even if it does get deep, it feels like childish deep.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Because Ava's still like a little naive and immature. Yeah. So like I feel like her perspectives on the relationship is not, I don't know, it's not that of a person who would be later in life. Right. And would have had more experiences.
Exactly, yeah.
And we foreshadow David a lot. With basically he only tells Alba stories, these bedtime stories. Yes. Dear God. There was too many bedtime stories.
Yeah, there's a lot of bedtime stories where he's just telling a story, and then if you happen to land on the opposite side of that video where it's just Alba sleeping, and
or
you're
just looking at the camera, and looking away and looking back, you're like,
somehow they got that little girl to just sit there for 7 minutes.
She does a good job.
She does a really good job of like being a
child who's like attentive. But sometimes children aren't good at like acting. I don't know. It's hard. Acting's hard. Yeah. You know. So she looks that perfect level of like child interested, but her attention is just like all over the place where she's listening, but like sometimes she's like gazing off somewhere else.
Right, or like, playing with her hair. Yeah. You know what I mean? Doing something.
Very fidgety.
Yeah. But there are those scenes where you're like, okay, like I could see maybe like one or two, but it felt like there was a lot.
Yes. I feel like there was like too many.
Yeah. To the point where I was kind of like, am I
no, almost like we drove the point home.
Right, like I kind of felt like I had to watch them because I'm like, this has got to be one where something important happens.
Because who knows?
And 9 times out of 10, nothing really happened.
Once at the end, Emma comes in on Alba's call and is like, picks the phone, is like, oh my God, what are you doing? This and that. And it turns into like an argument.
Right.
But most of the time it's just Alba goes to sleep and then she's like, I'm done now. Can the princess be saved now? I'm tired. I'm going to bed. And it's like, okay. But all the stories are like knights saving princesses, and it's like, okay, interesting. And then his screen name for the cam girl is Knight something.
Yes,
it's like Knight 72 or something.
Yeah,
something I don't
like
remember what it is. But that brings us to Maxine.
I love
Maxine so much.
She's so good.
She does a really good job. Like we said earlier, she does a good job of of being charming and manipulative without appearing to be manipulative.
Right.
And like, I'm like, oh yeah, I see how.
But it's funny too because when she's putting on the performance, there's like dead behind her eyes.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit where she's just like saying the words and she's like, yeah, I'm so sexy right now. And there's just a little bit of dead behind her eyes where I'm just like, oh yeah, like she does not care. Like, don't forget to tip if you want me to do this. And
I think that was the part I kept laughing at.
Yeah.
Was like, oh, and leave a tip. I'm like,
yeah.
Just
look at my wish list.
yes.
Yeah. Like calling out the wish list.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, David
Yes.
buying her something.
Yes.
Because the wish list is like, oh, if you want to buy her gifts, buy her lingerie that you want her to wear on cam, etc., you can buy that and send it to her as gifts.
Exactly.
But David, I don't know how he stumbles upon her.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he's captivated by her.
Yep.
And he just kind of keeps returning to her over and over again until eventually he is doing like personal side calls.
Yeah, like private
calls.
Like paying for a private call of some kind.
Like a private session. And then he just wants to know things about her all the time. He keeps asking questions.
Right.
Where did you grow up? What did you do? Like, how did you get into this line of work? Is that your name? Eventually, he's like, is that your real name?
Yeah.
And at some point, it goes from, I mean, it's always a little creepy.
Yeah.
But it gets creepier where he gets commanding about it.
Right.
And more, like, obsessive.
Yes.
And, like, he's
like,
really
are you
telling
me
her.
the truth?
Yeah, like as if he's owed the truth.
Right.
And that's where it gets uncomfortable and you start teetering.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he buys her a gift that's not on the wish list.
No, it's a wig,
which is
isn't it?
such an ego guy
Yes,
thing of like, no,
guy.
I
Yeah.
know better what you want than you do. I'm going to buy you something else that's more special than the thing that all the other people see.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, David.
Yeah. And she's just like, sure, I'll pay for this call and give me your money.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. But like, it's creepy.
It's so creepy.
Yeah.
And same thing with his body language too is creepy. And he's just like, he has this.
There's like a predatory kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
Scuzzy kind of.
He wants to get his way.
Yeah.
In a way that's really uncomfortable.
Yes.
And he's not happy with the fact that she is in control.
Yes, because that's the thing. She is in control.
Absolutely.
Like, we get so many different versions of her origin. Like you said, she's a ballet dancer that falls on hard times. Then we find out, like, oh, she lives in Ohio and she does real estate, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like all these different things that, what's the truth? Who knows exactly what the truth was? But also, she gives what she wants to give.
Yeah.
And sometimes all of it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of it isn't, but like, she is the one in control.
Mm-hmm.
And she says it a few times. Like, she outright says, like, I can just turn this off.
Yeah, I can kick you out of here.
Yeah,
I can block you.
Yeah.
And we can never do this again. That's
Which
fine.
she does.
Yeah.
She blocks him at some point, and then I think he gets another username and goes back in and then tricks her into, like, getting a side chat
Which
again.
is so just like internet stalking harassment. I'm like, yes, that's what happens. That happens all the time. And
that's the thing. He starts to rely on her to, like, offload a little bit of his like stressors, right? Like,
because she's the only one who kind of knows everything.
Yes,
he can tell her everything.
Everything,
because he's not keeping his identity or his job from her like he is with Ava. He's not keeping the stuff he's doing on his job that's distasteful from his wife.
Yeah,
he's like, no, this is the place that I can be myself, kind of. Which also, is that just his actual true self? Is that the truest
actually, now that
David?
you say that, be myself, maybe that is him. Weird, control-y kind of.
And it's distant enough that he can be that controlling, and like there's a distance where you are freer to kind of be yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, David's worse than we thought.
Oh,
I mean, I thought he was already crappy, but I think David's...
But on reflection...
No, he might be just absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Oh, no.
I mean, I'm not that heartbroken about it, to be honest.
Not really, but still.
But yeah, no, on reflection.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And then until she literally is like, fine, you want to know the truth? This is like a camera. If you turn this camera around, you see my computer and my setup.
Here's my basement.
My ring light.
Yeah.
And here's the basement. Here is out my window.
Yeah.
And it's all nonsense.
Yeah.
And this is like
It's all for show.
Yeah, it's all for show. It's all nothing.
Like
right?
having to break that bubble.
This is my work.
Yeah.
this is my little workplace.
Yeah.
That's
Leave
it.
me alone. None of what you know is real.
Yeah,
here.
you think that you know me and we have a special relationship.
Yeah.
Let me show you how much you know nothing about me.
Exactly.
And this is all just nothing. Which
Yeah,
it is. Like if you are taking that for what it is, and like this is a transaction, she gets this out of this, I get some kind of emotional affirmation or whatever it is,
right.
Sexual satisfaction, regardless. That's what it is, though. Like it's a job. It's a
whatever level of denial you have about it.
That's on you.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with her.
Yeah. And but so it gets worse and worse until she blocks him out.
And she's pretty much like, I have all of this recorded.
Yeah.
You bother me again.
I know you're CIA or FBI.
I will leak all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she threatens him to be like, no, leave me alone or I'm showing everyone all of this.
And then I think that was another one.
Yeah.
Another video where we were like, because sometimes the setup of the video.
Yes.
Like at the very beginning, we're like, oh my God. Because you kind of get used to the same setups.
Yes.
The same situations. There's David in his apartment on the couch. There's Emma in the house.
Yeah.
They're at
you
the
know
park.
Max is on her bed.
Yeah. So when you see a different angle,
From in the
like a different
thumbnail.
point of view,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this is something different. What is this?
Yep.
That was a lot of fun. I wanted more of that.
Because that's the thing, because the big one with Max is the final confrontation between the two.
Yeah.
Where, like, she is at her computer in a different kind of, in the thumbnail, the scene doesn't look
It's
right.
further away.
It's further away.
It's like of the whole room
Yeah.
rather than just of the bed.
And essentially, we find out that David tracked her down.
Mm-hmm. Totally normal.
Totally, yeah, normal behavior.
Normal stuff to do.
normal. You do this all the time. And then David tracked her down, and he shows up, and he's in a full suit, clean shaven, very FBI man kind of thing, and he's like pretty much demanding that she take down, like, delete all the videos, and get rid of it all. I found you, like, very intimidating, threatening her, and she pulls out a gun and like
shoots him. She shoots him, which I'm like, yes, Max.
Yeah,
that was
and she's recording this whole thing.
Yeah,
and she had already, like, this is why I love her. She had already called the cops.
Yeah,
knowing that he was going to come, she had already preemptively called the cops.
Set up the camera.
Planted
the gun. Took the gun out. Had it ready.
So that if he did do anything, she was ready.
Yeah,
and she called the cops, and they show up in the video and arrest him. Yeah. And that pretty much like ends a lot of like.
I think that's the new low.
Yes,
I mean, there are a few lows.
Yeah.
For David near the end of the game because it just kind of all falls apart. Like his marriage falls apart. His like sting operation kind of falls apart. With the relationship with the girlfriend falls apart.
Yep.
He's lost this relationship that he thought he had with Maxine.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be told more forcefully of like, no, this is not anything. I shot you in the leg.
Yes.
it's like pretty definite.
Yeah,
I think.
Exactly.
I don't think you can come back from that.
No.
Yeah, I think that's like one of though. I think those are two of her biggest moments. Is the you think you know me, I'll tell you how much you don't know me.
Exactly.
And I'm kind of shutting this off now. Yep. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
And then the scene where she shoots him.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And then, like, last but not least, and this is honestly kind of how we discovered, like, this order is really how we discovered these story bits, kind of. Mm-hmm. We focused heavily pretty much on Emma, essentially, early on. Then we kind of... Max, and then we delved into the Ava stuff a little bit later.
Which that was more just because we getting into the end of the story.
Right.
We're like, what happens in the story? And that brings Ava.
Brings Ava more into play there. And essentially, their relationship keeps developing. But eventually she gets pregnant, which is kind of like, oh, shoot. I mean, one of the big ones that we were like, oh, my gosh, is that Alba, his daughter his daughter with Emma, calls and Ava picks up the phone and she's like, oh, who are you? Yeah.
Are you in Daddy's baddie place? Because that's what she calls his apartment while he's like on his sting. Like, exactly. Oh, that's your baddie place. She's like, oh, why are you in my daddy's baddie place? And we're like, what?
Yeah. And like the way that, and then he rushes in and ends the call immediately. Yeah. And we're just like, what on earth happened? And I don't think we saw that scene pretty early on for us. And then we finally like you piece it together that like you kind of infer that he must say like I have a daughter with like an ex-wife or something like that, and you kind of accept that. But then you find out that like Ava gets pregnant, and she wants to maybe like have she talks about like wanting the baby to meet Alba and stuff like that, like and all these things. But David's story is progressing with the like terrorist organization. He's getting deeper and deeper in. He keeps finding more and more, like more people, more like getting better connections. You find out that I guess like one of the major plot points with Ava is that she, there was a past history with her and one of the other guys. He would drug women and film him essentially.
Yeah, that's assaulting. At the very least, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad guy. Terrible, terrible person. Yes.
And Ava was one of them, but the friend group more or less sided with him.
They're like, well, stalker, not believed. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Surprise, surprise.
So but she's kind of still stuck around with them.
Yeah. Well, she was kind of like, well, we were dating, it's one of those like, he did a terrible thing, but she kind of brushed it under to kind of keep her friend group together.
I guess.
Just one of the terrible things that happens.
Exactly.
Right?
She has a lot of terrible things happen to her, essentially. And then so David beats up this guy. It kind of gets him even farther into the group because like he justifies it to his handler like, oh well, I would have never beaten up the leader of the group if like he uses it to kind of he justifies his actions
of being the hero.
He's
like, I can be the hero.
Exactly, right? And so that plot keeps progressing, and Ava's just kind of present. She's pregnant. She gets progressively more pregnant. And then quickly his handler wants to pull him out. Yeah. Like they're wanting to stop the operation. They're wanting to pull out in some way. I think it got very messy.
Yeah. I think they're like, oh, well, we can get this part of it.
Yes.
They're like, that's good enough. And he's like, no, I'm in deep,
Yeah.
Also, I love that he is so mad about abusive men, but he is an abusive man. David. Like, he's like, well, I have never like, I assume physically like hurt a woman, therefore I'm not an abuser type thing. But no, he's extremely emotionally abusive.
I mean, I think Emma says it best at one point. She's like says something like, you never hit me, you never physically touched me.
Yeah, she specifically says it,
but you were present with a gun at all. Like
I felt your presence. You had a dominating presence that she was kind of afraid of him a little bit. Like they're just under the surface, always aware that he's capable of bad things.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how that looms over their marriage.
Exactly. He may have never actually put his hands on her, but the possibility of it was always there. So yeah, it just kind of that stuff just he has to eventually get pulled out. She gets raided, which was also the next big thing with Ava, is that like the FBI, unbeknownst to David, raids her and that group that she was working with. And we watched the raid happening because David happens to be talking to her on a video chat at the time. And that was pretty like horrific. Like I was like scared for her.
It's well acted. Yeah. Right? It's like intense, well acted. That's another one where there's a few of those where we're like, what's the other side? Where's David's side? And we're looking and we're like, what can we search? We're like, stay calm.
Yeah. What would you say?
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Trying full sentences just to try to see if we could find something.
Yeah. Sometimes it was a struggle.
Because by the end of it, we were really trying to find all the videos.
Yeah. Because we got so close.
Yeah.
I don't think that there are a lot of videos that you obviously don't need to see.
Yeah.
But there's the thing where the big videos, like the really big ones that were like, whoa, this just happened. You don't know where they are or how many of them are.
Exactly.
There are.
There could be something that just completely comes out of left field.
Yeah. So then we're like, well, we don't know what's left. And we were so close to being done everything that we were literally like, fine, we're going to try and find every video. Another qualm I have with this game is that her story has basically a grid. Yeah. Almost like when you're downloading something and it like fills it in block by block and our block's missing still. Like a grid of videos of how many videos there are, what you've seen and what's still missing, and they're set up chronologically too. So you have an idea of what you haven't seen. This doesn't have that.
Not that we could find. There was lots of different apps on this desktop that you're playing on.
And yet none of them, honestly,
them,
most of them had no use.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's solitaire.
Pictures.
We played one round of solitaire.
Yeah.
Because
there's some random pictures.
Yeah, weird pictures.
I'm not sure I know the significance. Maybe there is something to them. I never really figured it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of icons. So then we kept on thinking like, well, one of these icons must have like something like this, something like her story. Yeah. And it didn't, which made it at the end more difficult because then we're like, well, we're missing a couple videos, but we don't know. They could be anywhere.
I think did we not end up searching?
We searched, yeah.
We used a guide.
Yeah, basically there's a guide
that said, search these 20 words and you'll see all the videos, essentially.
So then we just went through each word and like, which words did we not search yet? And eventually got them all.
I don't feel like we missed much.
Anything major. No, we didn't.
No, because we found what I would say is the end.
Yes.
Like, not right near the end.
But this is how the story concludes. This is how David's story ends.
I would say like 2/3 of the way through, we found the end of David's story.
Yes.
And then we were like, how did we get here?
Yes, and we're trying to fill in the gaps.
And we spent the last third of the game trying to fill in the gaps of how he got to where he got.
Yeah. Which is just everything's fallen apart. He's at the below ground floor. Like he is just everything's a disaster. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to play hero and do this like radical environmentalist plan that he had come up with to try and get out the radicals from the group.
He was trying to like entice the radicals from this environmentalist group
to like do it
to pretty much blow up a bridge.
Yeah.
And trying to pretty much trying to coax them, entrap them. Let's be real. He was it was
totally entrapping.
Yeah,
I don't think this case holds up at all.
I don't think so. Which honestly, maybe why it was being leaked by Karen in the first place, because we need to talk about Karen.
Yeah, we're gonna get to Karen next.
But he pretty much the plan was to he was trying to coax these people into blowing up a bridge to stop a potential pipeline from being built.
Yes.
He ends up doing it.
He's just like,
we
you know
see
what?
his suicide video at the end, like his final video.
That's basically like, I'm so sorry. I've screwed up everything. Yeah. I thought I was trying to do a good job. Like I was always trying to do the best thing that he thought was the best thing.
Right.
And it was not. And everything just got worse. He ruined every relationship he had. He has nothing left. Yeah. So he's like, you know what? I'm just going to do that thing. I'm going to blow up the bridge. So he takes the boat, takes the explosives, blows up the bridge, and kills himself.
I think that's where we discovered that he had a daughter with Ava. Because he mentions Star.
Star, yes.
And we're like, who is Star?
I love those. Those are my favorite moments. Wait, what?
Yeah. Which then, we found the scenes where even after the fact, you can tell that his relationship with Ava is ruined too, because she obviously just finds out what was going on, that he was lying. And there is a scene of him trying to walk up to Ava and Star at
in
a
the park. Yeah.
And see the baby. Because essentially when he was being pulled out of the operation, she hadn't even given birth yet. He never met the baby. Mm-hmm. And then there's a final video call with them where she's pretty much just she's so stone-faced.
And she's been so
bubbly.
Yeah, bubbly is a good word. Yeah, and very receptive.
You can see how broken she is by the end. Which that's honestly the most interesting I think that character ever was.
Yeah. Because she's too bubbly the whole time. You're right. Even when bad stuff's happening, she still has that youthful
positivity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can see the brokenness of what has happened to her, which I don't mean that terrible things have to happen to someone to make them interesting.
I was just going to say that. You don't have to have trauma to be an interesting character, but that one did a little bit.
Yeah. I think that added a layer where I was like, oh.
Because we didn't have it the whole time. There weren't. We just didn't have more layers.
Yeah,
that's all. In her behavior.
Yeah,
I always kind of knew how she was going to behave.
Yeah, you could gauge how she was going to act.
Yeah, whereas I'm like, oh, Emma might be. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was more subtle with her emotions. Ava's more like, I feel this.
Yes,
so she's saying this. Whereas other characters, you're reading into what they're saying in their expressions.
Honestly, when you have a marriage that's based on not a great, you're not really being forthcoming, and you're a lot more passive aggressive, I'm sure, than you would be as a youthful young 20-something. Mm-hmm. trying to date this guy and being all happy and bubbly and forthcoming about how you feel about stuff, right? Like, and Max is just an enigma. So
oh my
like,
God,
so,
Max.
yeah,
That's why Max is interesting, because
Right.
we're like, I want to know more. I don't know
exactly
the truth, right? Which I guess is part of the appeal.
right. And that's maybe the appeal there,
Yeah.
right? Like that's why we're
She
like,
got us too.
what is going on here, right? Like, so that's probably why we felt that way, because there just wasn't enough mystery
Yes.
to uncover.
Yes,
right?
I think so. So, but Karen, though.
Yes, Karen.
Karen. Okay, so Karen, we don't know her name at first.
No.
We just, so at the very beginning of the game opens with with like a directed scene of Karen coming into an apartment building, like a full scene, because everything else is more like a play, because the person is in one setting.
Yeah.
Like they're in their apartment talking on their phone, right? Or they're in a cafe or talking on their phone. But this is more like a movie or TV show. She is walking off the street. She's going into this building. She's going up to her apartment. She's like in a rush. She's plugging in this USB and then settles in at the computer.
Yep.
And then you take over control.
Right. And you're always seeing Karen's reflection in the screen
Just
playing
slightly.
back to you. Just ever so slightly. Sometimes it comes more into focus.
Yes.
So this game has kind of like a clock a little bit aspect where
it's like a progress bar, but in a clock.
In a clock form. So like the more videos that you watch, time progresses.
Yes.
So it goes from like 11 p.m. to midnight to 1 a.m. and it keeps going. I think, what does it hit? 6 a.m.?
6 a.m.,
Yeah. And that you pretty much get all the videos if you've hit 6 a.m. It weaves in and out every hour mark or so. It kind of, maybe Karen, her cat jumps on the keyboard.
Yeah. I forgot
or
about that.
her half-naked boyfriend says like, "Oh, are you coming to bed?" And she'll be like, "A few more minutes," like, so you don't really know who she is, why she's looking at these videos.
She's on a time crunch and you don't know why. She's like, I only have so much time to get this done.
Exactly.
And you're like, what are you doing, Karen?
Exactly. We don't really know. And
but then Karen.
So then that's the thing. You get this scene.
So one of the videos, one of the recordings.
Yes,
it's
because
not a phone call, it's a
David has
recording.
set up a camera to record a conversation with some of these terrorist organization-y people, and all of a sudden this woman kind of comes in from right screen and just kind of stands there, and she's like, "Hey, David," and blah blah blah, and acts, and she's like, she's very out of place, and
because she's kind of like in suit, like she looks like a professional. Like she's in, I think she has like a jacket, like a suit jacket on, whereas everyone else in the apartment is like in like jeans and a t-shirt.
And David is very taken aback. Like that he's panicking. We've never seen him like this.
No,
ever.
Or he doesn't look like he's not in control while he's working. While he's being in his FBI self. You don't really see him panic. No,
because he isn't in control, because this is something that he wouldn't have expected. And he's like, "Karen, blah, 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 like, what are you doing here?" And she plays off as if they're exes. And then, but you don't see Karen, you don't see her face right away.
No, just kind of the side.
Kind of the side. And I was just like, this is the woman we're playing. This is who we are. We are her. That's us. Like, there's this shock moment of like, oh my God.
Because that's the first time. And that was like probably like 2/3 into our playthrough. And it's the only time, well, the first time. I think you see her one other time.
Because we were actively looking for her.
But it's the first time you see her in the videos, and we both went like gasped,
what
shocked,
does this mean?
Looked at each other, we're like, Karen!
Karen
is in the game!
Immediately searched for Karen.
Oh my God, we lost our minds.
Yeah.
It was just unexpected. I didn't think that was going to happen. I kind of want more of that.
Yes.
Which is where I think immortality is more anything can happen.
Yes.
Whereas this is like, it is what it is. It's phone calls between people. There's discussions. You'll have revelations.
You
about
don't
things
expect
that
the
happen.
scene of the character that you're playing, the face of that person to suddenly show up in one of the scenes, right? So, yeah, very good.
Oh my God.
That
I wanted more Karen.
Yes, that's the thing. I kind of did too. We got one conversation that they had after the fact where they kind of like essentially David, like they had another agent
Yeah.
Trying to infiltrate at the same time.
There's like an informant.
Yes.
So it's not an agent, but it was an informant who was informing the
Yes.
FBI. But David thought that he wasn't
doing a good job.
basically, yeah.
And
because he's like, this other guy, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
I'm the hero.
Yeah. And pretty much took control of the situation and exposed this guy and got him kicked out of the organization.
And that's when they decide David needs to come out because he's too deep.
He's
doing
he's
weird
going
stuff
rogue,
now.
And yeah.
He's he's got his girlfriend. He's kicking out the other informant guy.
Yeah.
Like
he's not following orders the way that he should.
We need to take him out. So
Karen's
goes
role
basically...
is to kind of whip him into shape or tell him like, you're done, get out.
Yeah,
like,
she's basically disrupting things and giving him a reason to extricate himself from the group.
Exactly.
And like end it. And he's just like, nah.
Yeah.
He's just mad and goes, nah, I'm staying.
Yeah.
But yeah, Karen showing up is one of my favorite things.
Yes.
I think that's where this game becomes, and not to rate games, but if I were in my, how I think of this game, I think of this game as like a 7.5.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I don't get higher, is where I'm like, I was surprised throughout the surprises come here and there, but I just want a little bit more, I don't know,
crazy
unexpectedness,
twists? Yeah,
I guess. And
yeah.
like, there's plenty of twists. Like, I don't need a crazier story. Maybe something in the presentation, I guess.
Right.
Just in a way that it's the presentation is surprising in
Right.
a new way. Because the times that it did, those are the times that we were like, oh my God.
Right.
But then I don't know, maybe if you do more of them, then it loses its effect.
Right, a little bit, because then all of it is shock and awe,
Yeah,
and then it maybe
it's like,
loses its
and then
effect
it's
a
just
little bit.
silly.
Yeah.
So I really don't know.
I don't know how you balance it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a game maker.
Yeah, for a good reason. Yeah, we are terrible.
Yeah.
We critique from our couch.
That's right. That's all. But yeah, so then the game, at some point, you get enough clips.
Yeah.
To essentially, you get the option to extract all the files.
Yeah.
And you have the option to like extract everything right then and there, or you can keep looking. We opted to keep looking until we found everything. We saw online that there was 170 clips.
Yes.
And so we ended up waiting until we saw all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we uploaded them all, and then we got the final kind of scene.
Yes.
With Karen.
Yes.
She essentially unplugs her. Oh no, sorry. She takes a drill.
Oh yes, she leaks it.
Yeah, she puts it all in a USB, and she takes the drill to her laptop, and you watch her like drill holes into her laptop, and it fuzzes out.
Okay, so this is where we kind of cut off. So we had been discussing back and forth while we were playing the game, and then we're like, oh, it's the end. We're gonna not say our thoughts.
Yes,
from basically for this ending section.
We didn't want to spoil how we felt about the ending until we actually got on microphones to talk about it.
So I initially was scared that when she drilled into the laptop, because she drills once and the screen kind of gets like deformed in certain ways, and then she drills again, it gets more deformed. I was scared that it was just going to go black and be the end.
And that'd be the end of the game.
And I was like, that's it?
Right.
Which is not the case. It then goes back to the beginning of the game where it's like a TV or a movie, and it's following her walking around, going into the hallway, going upstairs. She's avoiding these like agents.
They're going like door to door?
Yeah, they're looking for her.
Right.
Which is why she's on a time crunch. She's trying to find all these things and leak it before she's caught. So then, I don't know, she goes up to the roof. She doesn't she have a cigarette or something?
And she just kind of hangs it on the roof.
And she's just like, oh, I did it on the roof.
I don't understand the ending a little bit.
Yes.
In how
I felt that we were both not satisfied with the ending.
A little, because I'm kind of like, do they not know where she lives?
Also, like, why?
And like, she just kind of like sneaks.
Yeah, they should know which apartment she's in.
Right, and she just and like, obviously this is her apartment. She's got her cat,
or it's her boyfriend's apartment.
Maybe,
but even then, it's her boyfriend.
They would know where to find her.
They would totally know.
And then like, she kind of just opens the door, and they don't hear her run upstairs.
She walks by them. Like, if they turn their head slightly to the right, they would see her, and she's just like, whoop, and she just goes up the stairs. And it's like, okay.
And then she goes up the stairs, and then what is she expecting to do on the roof?
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know exactly why.
I think I don't know
what her motivation is to leak it. Like, I know that she's not satisfied with how it went. She thinks that, like, David went.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. I don't know what is being covered up that she felt the need to leak.
Yes. Why do you have to leak it? Like, he's fired. Like,
He's dead.
Oh yeah, he's dead. He's so fired.
Surprise, but
super fired.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's dead, and also the CIA or the FBI. I don't know if they were painting him as a hero.
That's the thing
Maybe?
is, I guess I don't know, and that's the part that after you see the scene, you get the option to look at a report.
Yeah,
and the report kind of gives you like the details of like Karen. See her name, Karen. Blah blah blah. Leaked this information. Blah blah blah. I don't think we know her motivation for why she is leaking it. So I think that's the part where I felt confused a little bit. I didn't know why she needed to leak it.
And I was like, this is the end? This is like the last shot of the game is like her on the roof. Like, I don't I don't know. I can't really read her emotion and like what her motivation is and what her feelings are. Like, I don't know what she's thinking. I
wouldn't have known that she was even like taking those files and downloading them until we were given until she started drilling into that laptop. I didn't think she was doing anything that would be deemed like needing to be.
I kind of liked that though. I kind of like, oh, she's drilling into the laptop.
Right.
Oh,
like,
we're destroying evidence now.
Exactly.
Interesting. But it's just,
but then also,
I just wanted more at the very end.
But also like she drills into the laptop and then just leaves the room. Like she doesn't dispose of the It's just very, I feel like, okay, they know you now drilled into a laptop if they happen to walk in. Your poor boyfriend's like probably in bed and they're going to like come into the room. Like, and like what's she doing on the roof? Like, I don't really know.
Whereas the rest of the game, I feel like I know what people are feeling and I know people's motivations generally. And I have like a firm place in the story with the characters. And then Karen, who I want to be the most interesting, is not interesting.
No, because I don't.
But she's
understand.
presented interesting.
Yes, I want her to be interesting, but I don't find her interesting because I just don't understand.
Yeah,
like I feel like I don't know if it's like. Did I miss something? Did we not see some video?
I don't think so. I mean, I looked at a plot overview, and no, it basically is that like she leaks it, and then she destroys the evidence and like runs from the FBI to the roof of the same building. She doesn't run very far.
Right.
I don't know.
Does she get arrested? Does she not get arrested?
Yeah.
Like what?
It was odd as a culmination of the story and of the game. And then it's like telling lie. Like it smashes to the end title screen, and it felt like it was bigger than it felt like it was trying to be bigger than I received it.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that.
I think there just wasn't enough there.
No. For how they filmed it and how they presented it. There wasn't actually it looked like there should be more, and there wasn't that much to it.
That's the thing. I felt like I missed something.
Yes.
Like I felt like
which is a bad way to leave the game.
Yeah, feeling. A little bit. I almost would have rather the screen went to black after she drilled.
Yeah. And just be like, what is that? What happened?
Right. What does that mean?
Rather than her going to the roof, honestly, yes. Because her going onto the roof didn't add anything other than being like, oh, aside from like...
Other than adding confusion.
And like the sunrise and you're like, oh, it's morning now. And like, I don't know, just
I guess
that visual. But story-wise, I didn't get anything out of it.
Yeah, like I think if she had just drilled into that laptop and it went to black and the end, I would have been like, she was downloading those files for something.
Yeah. And
leaving that open-ended.
Yeah, it was just, her demeanor was odd.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what to make of you.
Yeah.
Standing on this roof.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I was so intrigued by Karen.
Yes, I wanted it to be bigger.
Yes,
than it
and then
I
just left confused by Karen. And
we were like, we want more Karen, and then there wasn't.
No.
It wasn't there.
Yeah, I don't know if it just wasn't fully realized. I don't know if I understand what the goal was there. Especially,
so I'll do a brief spoilers for her story. Skip ahead like 3 minutes, but the end of her story is a similar setup. You are looking through files on a computer. The end of that is the person looking through the files is like the woman being interrogated's daughter.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, there's a connection there. This person is trying to find out what happened and like understand their mother better. And I'm like, I understand the motivation there.
Yes.
Whereas Karen, I don't get the motivation.
Even then, her story feels very abrupt in the ending, though, too. Like, it's her daughter at the end.
Yes, there's not much outside the videos clips.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Well, yeah. But this one just felt weird.
It did.
Yeah.
Because there was so much production put into those scenes.
Right.
that then it felt bigger.
Yes. Like it should have
Whereas
meant
had
more.
it just been like, yeah, you're right. Had she just like closed laptop, it would have been maybe it wouldn't
More
have left me
open-ended.
wanting so much.
Yeah. I think it would have left me wanting
yes.
in a positive way
Yes.
rather than left me wanting in a confused,
In like
I don't
a,
understand what this means kind of way.
Yeah.
Like a bad, I don't know. I like not knowing what something means.
Absolutely.
But when I'm like confused as like, I actually don't understand the
I don't understand you
motivation.
as a person.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't understand why you're making that expression on that roof. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, why you look like a calm contentment? Like,
Yeah.
it's just odd.
So yeah, so then it says telling lies.
Yep.
It starts the credits, and then you get a post-credit scene
Yes.
with. Well, so I looked this up.
Okay. Good,
We
because
got
I
an-
forgot to.
We got an ending scene with Ava.
Yeah.
It turns out that you actually get an ending scene with the character that you spent the most amount of time searching.
Which doesn't really make sense.
No,
'Cause if
I
we
found
watch
that-
all the clips.
That's what I didn't understand. So then obviously the game is geared towards seeing more of Ava's clips
Yeah, there would be more Ava clips, I would think.
because it's the main driving force of the plot.
Right.
But
Yeah,
that
you spent a
doesn't
lot of
necessarily mean that I have a stronger interest in Ava. Even in the report, I think it says something along the lines of like had a strong interest in
Yeah.
like Ava's scenes, and it's just kind of like I actually didn't.
Yeah.
But I kind of had to.
hmm
I just felt like
I wanted to see all of them. I was like,
so. I
there's-
googled.
It's not a good enough
I
reason
googled
to only
all
show one.
of them.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it would have been more effective if you watched all the scenes. You get all three scenes.
Yeah.
You get a scene with Ava. You get a scene with Emma. You get a scene with Max.
Yes.
If you watched all the scenes.
If you watch partial, then you get one.
If you didn't get, then you get the one you watched the most
Yep.
of. Because it fell very flat for me.
Yeah.
I felt like because it's very much like
I don't know. They were just like, we building a life.
we're
and like,
building a life, and I'm gonna be like I gonna grow up, and I don't care about who my dad was.
Yep.
And you see Star, Ava's daughter, with David, like grown up a little bit, and it's kind of like, and she says, "My grandmother starts tell me about my father," and I said, "That's okay, Grandma. I'm happy." And
Yeah.
the scene just ends, and I didn't feel like it didn't feel satisfactory. I almost wouldn't have rather.
I would rather see nothing.
Yeah,
I don't need to see. I'm always bothered by this. I don't need to see people down the road. I don't need to see like 10 years later.
Yeah,
this
like,
is what
what
this
happened to
character's
this?
doing.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't need that.
Yeah.
I'd rather just imagine, to be
So,
honest. Especially if
Emma's-
it's going to be not that interesting.
Emma's
Like,
was exactly the same
oh,
as Ava's.
building a life. Yeah.
We're moving on, building a life, and it was weird too because it's like Emma says something like Alba will grow up and she'll do exactly what she wants to do, and then it cuts to adult Alba saying, "I'm happy and I'm doing exactly what I want to do," and that's it, and that's how the scene ends.
Okay.
It left me with nothing.
It's very vague.
Yeah. And then Max's is she get back into real estate just a little bit to make a little bit of money.
Mhm.
Then starts her own camming agency.
Mhm.
And then she goes on to becoming a novelist.
Oh.
And she jokingly says that she is known for her quote unquote strong female protagonist. Like she like jokingly, like it's
Yeah.
actually played for laughs a little
Yeah.
bit. But so I thought like cool, but also I think it just left me being like, oh, I actually didn't need any of those.
I don't need any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I think
Especially if they're going to be so surface level and so just
Yeah.
like quick and meh.
yeah. So like I felt like very weird that when we played,
Yes.
we got Ava's and nothing else. And that was it. And I felt like, oh, like, is there even other ones? Like, why is the game just telling me about Ava's? Like, were Emma and Max not as important? Like,
Yeah.
I don't really know. So that was strange. I think just a lot of the ending of this game is just strange. I think sometimes the need to like give an explanation
Yeah.
can hinder an ending because I don't think enough people are comfortable with the idea of leaving an ending open-ended.
Yeah.
Leaving it open-ended to open to interpretation, open to like, well, this is the end of the story. Maybe there's other stuff that happens after, but it's not relevant to like David's story here, right?
Yeah.
And so I think this need to like give us whatever the heck Karen was
I don't
doing.
like put a bow on it.
yeah,
know?
I don't need to.
No, I don't need it either.
And honestly, it was very much like Ava, Max, and Emma were very much like, our lives are so much better without David. And it was pretty much, they are.
Yeah, they totally
Don't get
are.
me wrong, but also I felt like it was strange. Like, it was just very, like, yep, okay.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what bothered me about them, is that they felt very simple for what I felt was a very complex and interesting and like...
With layered emotions.
Layered,
and, like,
yeah.
There is a lot of conflict and, like, difficult things to deal with and, like, difficult emotions. And those are just like, yeah, everything's great now. It's like, okay.
That's the thing. The simplicity of the ending kind of left me just, like, being like, oh, I didn't need any of that.
No.
So that's the thing. I think the ending kind of was weird to me, but overall, I think, like, the game is great. I just felt like the ending was just strange.
Mm-hmm. I felt like, yes, we ended and we kind of looked at each other and I was like, I think we both feel the exact same way about this ending, but we're both going to not say it. Yeah. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure. I was fairly certain.
Yeah. Because I also didn't want it to sour my experience.
No,
because I
absolutely.
actually feel like my experience with the game was actually very good.
I also don't get ruined by endings.
No,
ever.
me neither.
Like, I don't really care. Like, you know, when people are mad about, like, series finales, and they're like, that series finale is terrible. It's like, that doesn't make the series bad.
Right.
I don't care.
I think endings are hard.
I will judge that series finale and be like, I don't like that series finale.
Right.
Or that ending to that story. But I'm not like, well, they ruined it all.
Right.
Like, no, I still, overall, really enjoyed the game.
Yep.
I don't know how I would feel playing it alone.
Yeah.
Versus with you, like couch co-op.
Yeah.
Like I'm that upped my experience. I don't know how much. Yeah. I really don't know how
it's really
intrigued
hard to,
I would be.
Yeah.
Alone.
I don't know. I don't know. I kind of feel the same way. I don't know if, like, in terms of, like, final thoughts, I really, like, I enjoyed my time. I loved playing this with you, but I don't know if on my own I would have had the same kind of excitement about, like, the discoveries that we found along the way. I would have it would have probably been more mellow.
A little bit more tedious feeling, I think, too. Because even when we're, like, scrubbing through a one-sided conversation and, like, the one person's not really saying anything, or we're scrubbing through another bedtime story, we're, like, chit-chatting kind of on the side while we're doing it.
Or even just brainstorming what to look up next.
Exactly.
Right?
So that kind of makes those less of a pain point.
Right. Yeah, so I think we kind of, like, fixed a lot of the issues with... And then not talking about the ending probably also fixed a lot of issues we might have had with this game.
Yeah, there you go.
left us with a better impression of it, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but yeah, overall, I liked it.
Yeah.
I am very curious to see what they're making next.
Project C, Project D, whatever those are.
They have multiple projects going. Yeah. I think one is like an over-the-shoulder third-person like horror, like survival horror game.
Oh my god, I'm so ready.
I forget what the other one. I think the other one is more story-based.
Yeah, I think one's more FMVE.
Yeah, but it seems like it's, especially after Immortality getting like the reception that it did, it feels like it's just wide open for that team to make whatever, to do wild swings, which is what I really like, is that it's experimental and they're trying things.
Yep.
However, to varying levels of success, but I would rather people try things that are unique and different and like pushing the boundaries of gaming.
That's the thing. Like, after I loved Immortality so much, I would have been like, I'll play anything that they play. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if anything would hit that high. If
it's in the same style?
Even, or just
I
think in the same style, I would have been like, oh, I'll play this.
Yeah.
But after playing all three of their his games now, I think anything that he comes out with, anything Half Mermaid comes out with, I think it's like a must buy for me. Like, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to play that. Both of them. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter because, like, I've enjoyed my experience with everything that they've made so far. So, like, clearly something is connecting with what they're making with what I'm getting out of it. And yeah, there's going to be little fumbles along the way. But generally speaking, like, they just keep knocking it out of the park. Mm-hmm. And I'm super excited to see what they do next.
All right. Fantastic. Samesies.
Yeah. Maybe we'll play them together.
I am down. A survival horror would be interesting.
Oh.
We have not done one of those.
I mean, if the next FMV one is anything like Immortality, you may need me present.
I could have played Immortality with a buddy.
Yeah. But there's no way you would have done it on your own.
No, I need a buddy. We have to do the buddy system.
Yeah.
Next time, we will do the buddy system. It'll be great. You know where you can find some buddies?
What? Where?
In the
Where's
Discord.
some buddies?
In the Left Behind Game Club Discord.
Yes.
You can find that.
Wonderful.
At the Left Behind Game Club leftbehindgame.club/Discord. I don't pitch these things ever. There's a big, huge Discord button there. You can push that. It brings you to the Discord. The co-hosts are all in there, all as well as a fun bunch of listeners who are all great, and a lot of them have their own content.
Yep.
They also kind of cross promo on there, and you can look at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great place.
It's a fun place.
You can also find Left Behind Game Club on Twitter. We'll call it Twitter.
Yeah.
At Left Behind Club, and on Instagram at Left Behind Game Club. I am on Twitter at Lesperak, Lesperak. I need to get back to Shadow of the Erd Tree, and I don't know. And now Wukong's come out, and now something else is coming. There's too many games.
There is.
Astrobot's out, and apparently it's amazing, and it's never ending, and I'm screwed. But yeah, there's basically FromSoft and like cats on there on my account. So if those things interest you, come on down. Where can you be found on the internet, Travis?
Honestly, like, you can find me on Twitter at Travis Colnut. I haven't posted anything in a very long time.
You know what? Good for you.
Yeah, I use it just to like things. Oh, I liked this, and that way I can just keep a record of all the things I liked if I need to go reference it again. But if you want to talk to me, come find me in the Discord. You can see me. I'm Travis. It's me. But otherwise, no, yeah, I've kind of gotten off the whole, I think my Twitter's private. I'm like, you can't really talk to me on there unless I say yes. And most of the time, I'm just like, delete.
Purging the terribleness.
It's kind of nice.
That you know what? That's fine, because you just need the Discord anyway.
That's all I need.
Yeah.
My buddies.
All right. So once again, if you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a 5-star review. Notify your friends that this is a great place to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that's about it. Anything else from you, Travis?
No.
Okay. Well, that, my friends, is one less game left behind.